Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer. You can catch him on NFL Network's Game Day Morning. He was on the call for Westwood One Radio last night with the wild card game between the Vikings and the Rams. Kurt, good to see you again. What did you expect pregame was going to happen last night?
Yeah, Dan, I wish I knew. I didn't really know what to expect. Anytime you throw, everything that was thrown at the Rams into this week, including, issues with your family and maybe friends of yours, I don't think you ever really know how a team is going to respond, how they're going to grow together. But I think Sean McVay did an unbelievable job. Give some credit to the Cardinals. I thought they did an unbelievable job of welcoming the Rams and making them feel at home. But what a performance. I mean, they came out from the get-go and they dominated that game. And I think oftentimes when you have situations like this, Dan, it goes one of two ways, right? And you find out pretty early whether a team is ready to play or whether their mind is on something else. And we saw very early that the Rams were ready to play.
Okay, let's look at Sam Darnold because we know his future could be at stake in Minnesota. These last two games, what did you see from Sam Darnold that you didn't see in the other games this season?
Well, first of all, we'll put it on the team as a whole. I thought Minnesota got physically dominated in both games. So that's the first issue, and it wasn't just up front. Sometimes it was on the back end with the receivers as well. But maybe the biggest thing for me with Sam, and I kind of saw it all year long, was his struggles with pressure. Understanding when pressure is coming and having answers for that pressure. And sometimes that answer isn't even just a completion, but it's just saving some yards. There was that situation in the fourth quarter last night where they're in 3rd and 8 or something like that. And he takes the huge sack. I mean, in that situation, you got to at least set up for a field goal. So if nothing else, throw the football away. Maybe you go for it on 4th down because you're in that situation. But there was too many times this year of him just holding and taking negative plays. And those negative plays are just hard to overcome. So that to me was probably the biggest issue that I saw. And then you have to ask yourself the question, as I know everybody is, okay, if you want to keep him around, what does that look like? What kind of commitment do you have to make to him? And, in those big games, the two biggest games of the year, he didn't play very well. Are you willing to, commit to him long term, after seeing that?
All right, I'll ask you. Play GM. Would you keep Sam Darnold if the price is right?
I would say yes, I would keep him if the price is right. I think the question would be, how long do I have to keep him? And then the other factor, Dan, is I don't really know what we have in J.J. McCarthy. Like, I didn't see him in preseason. I didn't know where he was. I don't know if, the Vikings were ready to start him after that one preseason game or if, they hadn't seen enough and Sam was the guy. So I feel like after watching them this year, they've got a good enough team that they need a guy at that position to make them competitive. Sam made them more than competitive all year long. But that to me is the question. I don't really know what you have in J.J. McCarthy. I didn't see enough in college. I didn't see enough with the Vikings to know for sure. If you feel like you have enough, then absolutely not. You go with J.J. and you move forward. But if you're not sure, I think it's hard to let a guy that did that well out of the building and you say, okay, so we saw one flaw or we saw a flaw with our team. We need to fix that flaw. But if we do, we've got this quarterback that played at a really, really high level.
Okay, but is this fixable? You're talking about pressure. Well, every quarterback faces pressure. The difference is you welcomed pressure. He seemed to be unnerved or very nerved by it. Like, oh, my God. And then you start to kind of get out of your comfort zone. So can you fix what you saw the last two games?
Dan, I wish I knew the answer to that. But I'm with you. I think there are some people that in that moment when pressure's on them, high stakes, they can just slow the game down and make the right decision. I made a comment about Jaden Daniels from the night before. And what I love about Jaden Daniels is he makes the right decision in the moment. Even if he doesn't see it, even if something's not open, he'll throw the football away. He'll take off and make a 2 or 3 yard gain instead of taking these sacks. And here's a rookie that we're seeing do this. And so I've always wondered if that's something that truly can be taught. When you've got pressure around you or when the game speeds up, can you slow it down and have that answer? I think for the most part, if you're good at it, you're good at it. Do I think you can help a quarterback? Sure, you can help them by giving them some answers. But I don't know if that's something that all of a sudden we're going to see a quarterback that's not good against pressure become great against pressure. I'm not sure that's something that you can really learn.
How threatening are the Rams?
I think they're scary. And I think they're scary in a game where they can win the line of scrimmage. And that, to me, is
But you're
going to
going
be
against,
the biggest.
but you're going against the Eagles now.
Exactly. And so that, to me, is where I feel like the Rams could struggle a little bit, is up front. If they can handle it up front, they obviously have playmakers. They've got a young front. I mean, 9 sacks last night by 8 different guys. They got lots of guys that can get after the quarterback. I just don't think Philly is going to play that sort of game. So I think they are a dangerous team based on what Matthew Stafford can do, the weapons that they have. But it has to be more their way of playing football. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to dictate that against Philly.
He's the Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. You can see him on NFL Game Day mornings with Rich Eisen and company. He was on the call last night, the Vikings and the Rams. If I said you can have Jaden Daniels moving forward or Justin Herbert?
Oh, I'm taking Jaden Daniels. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, I've seen that young man play
consistently. Is he a top 5
well.
quarterback, Kurt?
Maybe just outside of that, but I'm probably only saying that because he's a rookie, right? And because it's 1 year and one body of work. But if I stacked up all the things that he does well and put him up against the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, it would be hard for me to find 5 guys that do all the things as well as Jaden Daniels has done this year. The critical moments, handling pressure, just the consistency of his technique, the red zone. Normally you have struggles in the red zone because everything gets tighter. He has been phenomenal in the red zone. Last 2 minutes of games in critical moments. Like, it would be hard to probably find 5 guys that have played consistently better than him all year long.
I think you were 28 when you were a rookie, weren't you?
My first year playing, yes, I was 28.
Yeah, 28. The Bills and the Ravens, and both of these quarterbacks trying not to do too much. Like, you almost have to say to yourself, okay, I still got to be that same person that I've been all season long or my career, but sometimes you want to play outside of yourself, and sometimes we've seen where, you're your own worst enemy. So how do you have that seatbelt on that says, just stay within yourself here?
I think the biggest thing, Dan, is you don't predetermine that you're going to do something that maybe the situation doesn't dictate. Like, if you drop back and you're telling yourself, hey, I'm going to take off here if I see any kind of a window, as opposed to reading the play and then taking off when the play dictates that. That, to me, is the key, is you have to play the play. But the easy thing to do is, I need to make a big play right here, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to throw this deep one. If I get any scenario, like, you can't talk yourself into doing things that the situation doesn't dictate for you to do. And I'm sure, you know me, I wasn't a runner. I couldn't move. So my dictating was, saying I'm going to kind of force a deeper throw or make a bigger play than was out there. For these guys, it's taking off and creating, instead of, winning with their arm. It's like, hey, I can go back, and I see these guys do this at times where they hit their back foot and they're already taking off to run because they've felt something. And in those situations, I almost feel like you're dictating that ahead of time. I know this is a pass, but if I drop back and I see something, I'm just going to take off and run instead of allowing the situation to play out for you. And I think that's what you have to fight. The more talented you are, the more things you can do, the more you have to fight that and say, play within myself, play within what the play dictates, and don't try to do too much. Not always an easy thing to do, but that, to me, is the key, is play to play, and don't allow those thoughts that get in your head, ahead of time to dictate how you're going to play.
How desirable is the Cowboys job?
I mean, I think it's always desirable from the standpoint that, if you win as a Dallas Cowboy, if you have success as a Dallas Cowboy, you're going to get notoriety, and you're going to have, that platform that I think, every player and every coach covets, right? When you get to this level, you want to know that when you play, you're going to be on TV, and what you do is going to be, going to be focused on around the league. But I think everybody's talked about it. There's the negative side to that as well, because we have this perception that the Cowboys are supposed to win championships, even though it's been 30 years since they've won championships. So, like Mike McCarthy, you win a lot in the regular season, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And then we always talk about the second factor is you've got an owner that wants to be out in the forefront, and the owner saying things that, as a coach, you're like, I don't want anybody saying that. I want to keep this stuff in-house. I want to be able to lead here, and you've got to fight your ownership a little bit in what they're saying and deal with that. So, those two factors, I think, can make it a tough job. But I don't think anybody, that wants to be a head coach is going to turn down the opportunity to be a head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, because you know what that means if you believe in yourself and you have success, what that can mean for your career.
Good to talk to you as always. Thank you. Best to the family.
Always good to talk to you too. Thank you, buddy.